Welcome, this is Eliyahu Shir from Chesed Ve'emet, www.lovingkindness.co, and we're learning Derech Hashem today. We've been learning chapter 3 of Derech Hashem, the Way of God, written by the Ramchal, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, lived in the 18th century, was an outstanding Kabbalist, and an outstanding student of Torah altogether. And in chapter 3 of this work, he speaks about, as you see over here in the text of Sefaria, he speaks about divine names and witchcraft. And we're going through this material because we're looking at some of the very spiritual parts of the Torah. The Torah is not just a physical thing whereby we only observe physical actions. For example, we wear tefillin, or we keep Shabbos, or we keep kosher, whatever it might be, but that there is a spiritual aspect to life as well that surrounds us. And the Torah wants us to learn about these spiritual aspects as well. And one of the things that God has brought into the world is a system of spiritual gradations in order to bring holiness into the world from spirituality to physicality. And he has done this in a system of what we would call things like beings of angelic beings, to ultimately come down to the physical beings who we are, and the transmission of blessings and that things happen in the world happen through these means. For example, an angel is instructed by God to perform a particular task, and the angel performs it, and there is a physical result that occurs from that. People who think this is something which they can't really understand could think about ideas in today's terms of what we have, things like Wi-Fi. We have a thing called Wi-Fi, whereby my computer is connected to your computer right across the world. And just by using certain physical technology, even though nobody can see anything actually happening, I'm able to connect with you and you're able to connect with me thousands of miles away. How does that happen? Because there is a command system going on. There is a connection that is happening between one computer to the next through waves in the air. Things are moving about. Something is transmitting from one place to the other. Nobody would believe it. Nobody could imagine that if a computer was on a table on one part of the world and a computer was on a table on another part of the world, and there wasn't a wire connecting it, they couldn't see the physicality, they could never imagine that the two computers could talk to each other, that a person could talk to somebody on the other side of the world and he'd see him as well. But we see it happens. And so too, when physical things happen in this world, for example, a person becomes wealthy, or for example, he's able to walk, or whatever it may be, what is actually happening is that there are spiritual events that are occurring that allow us to be able to implement the effects of those spiritual events. And one of the paths through the spiritual effects happening into the physical world come about through angels. Another way in which this path can happen is simply using the name of God. And so therefore, when we pray to God, we use God's name in tefillah. We say Baruch Atah, and then we say Ador, and then we say Nai, and then say Elok, and then Kainu Melech HaOlam. We use God's name to bring the blessing into the world, and God wants us to do that. But there are even further ways that we can play around with these spiritual forces in order to bring the blessing into this world. Some things which are permitted, of course, some things which are forbidden, and some things which, even if we try to accomplish them, will never take place. This is what the Ramchal is teaching us in this particular point. We're in point number 5. And he says the following, V'amnam. However, indeed, Behemshech hashpa'a, through the continuation of this flow that's coming down when a person uses God's name, Tivaleit behechreach hatolda hamochokeket la. There is going to come about a birth, which is, let's say, engraved, and the matter will come out, in all of the unfolding, min harosh v'ad hasof, from the head until the end. Kumoshe kasuv, and as it's written, v'hine higbila hachochma ha'elyoina, that the supernal wisdom, which means God, has set up a boundary, et ha'inyan, with this matter, bigvulot, with certain constrictions, with boundaries, yaduim, that are known, or b'tanaim miyuchadim, and with certain other types of special conditions that are attached. That once the mention is made by him, that a person says something, this flow will come down, but Zulat Zeh. And this thing will come about, and it came about through this particular thing. And behold, Bichlal Hashpa'a Shegazar, included in this flow that was decreed, Sheyamshichu Mimenu Yisparach, that it should come through from God. Sider, he ordered, Sheyimshichu Hashpa'ot, he ordered that there should be a flow that comes down, Shebahagiam Lemishi Kablam, that as it arrives to the person who needs to get it, Yevutlu Bekocham, that the strength of this power that's coming through would be nullified, Guvulot Miguvulot Hateva, through the means of all the different boundaries of nature. Which means to say that when a person uses particular names, the name itself is so powerful that it can bypass everything that's going on in order to cause a reaction that there should be a flow of blessing in a certain way. Moshe Kasuf, as it's written, Vayikasher ha'ishahu im hanimtzaim, or as he wrote, sorry, Moshe Kasuf, as he really wrote, Vayikasher ha'ishahu im hanimtzaim. Now, when a person begins to say these particular things, he connects with these particular beings, hanimtzaim aruchneim, call them transcendental forces, v'tagia lo yedia, and through doing this, he can acquire for himself a knowledge, v'haskala, and an intelligence, lema'ala, which is above, mehaskala ha'enoshit, above the intelligence of ordinary man. V'inyanim acherim, and all sorts of other things can happen. Anfei shorish zeh, through the branches of this root. V'hu inyan madregas haruach HaKodesh, and this refers to the different levels of what's known as Ruach HaKodesh, the divine spirit, divine inspiration, Nevuah, and prophecy. Moshe Katav Lifnim Od B'siyata Dishmai. We're also going to also said it. We're saying it in a while. V'hinei, behold, Gazar, he decreed, Shamshakas Hashpa'ot Ha'ele, that the flow of all of this abundance, this blessing that comes through, Gam Kain Tiyeh Al Yedei Ha'imtza'i, will also come about through this medium, Shezachanu, that we mentioned about, Dahayinu Shemosav Yisparach, through the use of God's names, Hamit Yachasim Lo, which are attributed to him, which are related to him, Al Shem Hashpa'ot Ele, through the means of these particular flows, Bekavein by him, when a person intends them, B'machshavas Halev, he intends them in the thoughts of his heart, or Bahaskirotam, or when he mentions them, Bapeh, with his mouth, or Tzarafotam B'dvarim, or he begins to permute them through words, Imatanaim, with all sorts of conditions, Mashit Tzarich, of whatever is necessary, Sheyuchubar Lazeh, that he needs to join to this, Uchemoshe Kasuf Od B'siyata Dishmaya, and what's going to be written later on, B'siyata Dishmaya. What is he talking about? He's talking about this concept that God wants there to be in the world a possibility that a human being is able to connect with God on a very divine level. How does he do that? He makes use of certain procedures. He makes use of certain names of God. He makes use of certain meditations. And when he begins to do this, he's able to draw down into his mind, into his being, concepts that, generally speaking, he would not be able to attain on his own. Let us give an example of such a thing. Recently, we've been reading about the parashiot of Yosef HaTzadik and his brothers. And the brothers sold Yosef into slavery, into Egypt. And then eventually Yosef becomes the second in charge of the whole of Egypt, next to Paro. How did this happen? Well, on the night before everything was going to happen, says the Midrash, the angel Gabriel came to Yosef, and in one night, he taught him all 70 languages of the world. How did he do that? Because when a person is elevated on a level of spirituality, suddenly things can occur at a very rapid rate, and things can be transmitted to a person on a very rapid rate, much, much faster than could ever be imagined in the physical world, and even more so than a person can acquire than if he simply read books. So therefore, God gives us this ability that through making use of these various names, these various angels, everything in its time, everything has to be discussed. The Ramchal is going to teach us exactly how this all relates. But the point is that when a person connects with it, he's able to draw into himself a level of Kedusha, holiness, which is far beyond what he would ever get from just simply reading things in books. On one occasion, the story was told that the Arizal was sleeping on Shabbat. Now we must remember that the Arizal didn't have to sleep for the sake of sleeping. He was sleeping in a sense of a spiritual elevation. And as he was doing so, his lips began to murmur something. And so one of the pupils, I'm not sure if it was Rabbi Chaim Vital, it was one of the other pupils, I think it was one of the other pupils, came up to him and started listening to see if he could hear what the Arizal was saying. So at this point in time, the Arizal woke up and he saw the pupil was sitting there and he said to him, what is it that you want? He said, I saw your lips moving and I wanted to know what the master was speaking about, what was going on. The Arizal explained to him he was up in Shamayim, and he was learning the secrets of Bilam's donkey. So he said, well, will you teach me what it is that you learned? So the Arizal smiled at him. He said, even if I would teach you for 70 years straight, and I would continue speaking and not interrupt myself, I could never teach you what it is that I learned in the past half an hour or past hour, whatever it was that he was sleeping at that point in time. So the point is that through these spiritual means, a person is able to acquire knowledge on a much greater level than he could ever attain than on the ordinary physical level. And the Ramchal wants to point out to us in this chapter, part 3 of his work, which speaks about divine names and witchcraft, he's telling us that this is a real thing. If a person understands how it works, he can be able to elevate himself to a stage whereby there's this flow of knowledge, very much like if a person were to imagine he takes a USB device, he plugs the USB device into his computer, and immediately he can download as much information as he wants to from the computer in a very short period of time. This is likewise comparable to another type of story. We could speak about an appliance, like a fridge or an oven, or whatever we want to. If the fridge is not plugged in to the plug at the back, and you put things into the fridge will not make your food to be cold. End of story. However, once the fridge is plugged into the main electricity, which goes to the main electrical company, it draws a power from it that is able to keep all that food cold. The moment it connects with the power, it achieves a purpose and it brings into it a powerful energy that's able to keep all the food cold. Of course, if the device is an oven, it keeps the food warm. If the device is a fridge, it keeps the food cold. If the device is a computer, it brings information to us, helps us to organize things. So too for ourselves. We have to decide who we are and what it is that we want. How do we want to bring the godliness into the world? Once we plug into the godliness, immediately the plug goes in, there's a shefa that comes down, and we're able to achieve things and to understand things on a level that is far greater than we could ever achieve had we not plugged in as we should have. We look at number 6. V'hinei, behold, hadavar yadua, it's known, she'af al pi, she'klal zeh, that even though it is that with regards to this rule, ha'inyan echad hu, there's one matter, tahayinu, which means hayatzia migvulei hateva, there's this coming out from the boundaries of nature. We exit from nature. Hinei pratei ha'inyan rabim, there are many, many particulars to understanding what's happening here. Kefi sidrei metzios hanimtzaot, according to the orders of all of the existence that is to be found, and these forces, the Hadrigos Sehim, and all of their levels, according to the way of the nature that is found and the order, it's given over. So too will be all of the particular flows that are necessary to complete the thing, in all its aspects. And according to this, there increases more and more the particulars of this whole concept that we're speaking about and the conditions, and coming out of this whole thing, that we mentioned, madregas al madregas, level upon level, yimtzu, will be found kechol sha'ar klalei hadvarim, according to all the other rules of these things, hamit partim, which are detailed bepratehim in great detail. And there will be something that comes out of this whole thing, and the boundaries, and then something will come out which is on another level. He speaks in a very a difficult type of Hebrew when he's expressing these thoughts. It's not so easy to translate. We're going to speak about it a little bit later over here. So he says, I'm just reading the translation for reference, which might be better than what I said. So there will be one who overrides a little of his physical connections and limitations, and one who overrides a little bit more. So in other words, as we progress through learning more about these concepts, we have to know that to the degree that we use these particular things, one person can go to one particular level and another person can go to another level. And there are all sorts of different degrees of how this manifestation happens from the higher worlds down into this lower world. It's now at the end of the shiur, and it's a good time to stop. These are not easy concepts, but I hope that we at least got some idea of certain parts of it that make sense and help us to understand the concept a little bit better. So I thank you for joining me. It's Eliyahu Sher from Chesed Ve'emet, www.lovingkindness.co. If you've enjoyed this shiur, please click on the like button or make a positive comment and subscribe to my channel and click on the bell to remind that when a new shiur comes out, you will be reminded that the shiur is out. And obviously, if you'd like to be in touch, please come through my website and send me an email. I'll be delighted to be in touch with you. And I wish you everything of the best and look forward to learning again. Thanks for joining me. Wishing you the best. Shalom, shalom. Bye-bye. Take care.